620 miles on a single charge, 10 to 80% in about 10 minutes. That's the solid-state battery Toyota has spent more than a decade developing, and Lexus will be the first brand to put it in a car you can buy. Every headline you'll read about this is going to talk about the supercar it's going into first. That's the part that doesn't matter. After 20 years on the shop floor and better than 3,000 cars, I can tell you what it means when a manufacturer says a number like that out loud. It means the battery in every hybrid and every electric car sitting on a dealer lot this morning just got its expiration date announced in public. Here's the part nobody's saying. The people this hurts worst aren't the ones shopping for an electric car. They're the ones who never wanted one and figured this whole fight had nothing to do with them. It has everything to do with them, and it's already priced into the car they're going to be looking at this fall. Start with what a battery pack actually is, because the industry has spent 15 years making sure you never think about it clearly. That pack is a wear item. It is a consumable part with a service life, no different in principle from a clutch or a set of struts, and not one salesman in 100 has ever described it that way to a customer. Inside it, lithium ions shuttle back and forth through a liquid electrolyte every time you charge and every time you drive. That liquid is the whole problem. It degrades, it reacts with the electrodes and builds a film that thickens over years, and every micron of that film is capacity you no longer have. Heat speeds it up. A pack that sits at a full state of charge in a Phoenix parking lot in August ages faster than one in a Michigan garage, and neither owner is doing anything wrong. The cruelest part is that it happens on a calendar, not an odometer. A low-mileage hybrid that spent 6 years parked has been losing capacity that entire time, quietly, with nothing on the dash to tell the owner about it. I see the result in the bay constantly. A RAV4 hybrid at 60,000 miles behaves like the brochure promised. The same car at 140,000 pulls harder on the gas engine, holds a smaller usable window, and the owner swears the mileage isn't what it used to be, because it isn't. On a hybrid, that's an annoyance and eventually a bill. On a full electric car, it's the whole ball game. A replacement pack runs anywhere from $6,000 to $14,000 depending on the model and who does the labor, which on a lot of used electrics is more than the car will appraise for. None of that appeared on the window sticker. It got sold as maintenance-free, which was true in the narrowest possible sense. You can't maintain it because there's nothing serviceable in there to maintain. Here's what they don't want you knowing, and it's hiding in a document you were handed at signing. Look at the battery warranty. 8 years or 100,000 miles is the federal floor in this country. California pushes it to 10 years and 150,000, and Toyota covers hybrid batteries on its recent models out to 10 years or 150,000 miles. That sounds like a company standing behind its product. Read the trigger instead of the term. Coverage typically kicks in when capacity falls below roughly 70% of what the pack started with. Your battery can shed nearly a third of its range, and every engineer at the manufacturer will tell you, accurately, that it is operating as designed. Think about what a warranty like that is really ensuring. It isn't ensuring your range. It's ensuring against catastrophic failure while telling you a slow bleed is normal. And they wrote that number knowing exactly what these packs do at year 7. The second tell is the timeline on this new battery. Toyota is aiming at 2027 or 2028 low-volume flagship models first. That's a company telling its own customers, in public, that the good version is 2 model years out and that the first ones go to the most expensive cars in the lineup. Every vehicle on the lot between now and then is the generation they've already moved past. Then there's the third tell, which cuts the opposite direction and hurts just as much. The chairman of the biggest battery maker on the planet, the Chinese outfit that supplies a huge share of the world's electric cars, told the World Economic Forum this technology sits at about level 4 out of 9 on the road to real production. Toyota's own solid-state target has moved before. It was 2020, then it was 2023, then 2026, and now it's 2027 or 2028. So you're standing between 2 doors, and the manufacturers own both of them. If the new battery lands on schedule, everything for sale right now is the throwaway generation, and will be valued accordingly. If it slips again, you spent 3 years waiting for a car that kept not arriving while the one in your driveway aged out from under you. Manufacturers won't say that part because it costs them money and not you. Dealers won't say it either because there are 400 units of the current generation on the ground and somebody has to move them by quarter's end. That's the announcement. Not a supercar, a public admission with a date attached about what the entire market is currently selling. A press release is theory, though. What I pull out of these cars once the years stack up is something else entirely. And once you've seen a pack come apart on the bench, you'll understand why I stopped staying quiet about this. Here's what one of these packs looks like when it comes apart in front of you, because the picture explains everything the sales floor won't. A hybrid battery isn't one battery. It's a row of modules wired in series, each one a small block of cells, and the whole assembly behaves like a chain. The weakest link governs what every other link is allowed to do. I pull the service plug, open the case, and put a meter across each module one at a time. On a healthy pack out of a Camry hybrid, those readings sit within a few hundredths of a volt of each other, top to bottom. On a tired one, the spread opens up into tenths. 2 or 3 modules have fallen behind the rest, and the battery management computer can see it long before the driver can. That computer's job is to protect the weak module, so it narrows the window the pack is allowed to operate in. It stops charging as high. It stops discharging as low. The owner never gets a warning light for any of that. What he gets is a gas engine that runs more often, a car that's suddenly 2 or 3 miles a gallon worse than it was, and a service advisor who tells him it's probably his driving. It isn't his driving. It's a chain with 2 bad links, doing exactly what the engineers knew it would do at that age. Open one of these up, and the physical evidence is right there in front of you. Cells that have swollen enough to press against their neighbors. Discoloration on the case where a module ran hot for years. Bus bar connections gone chalky with corrosion because moisture got past a seal that was never meant to last this long. On the Toyota and Honda hybrids, the pack is cooled by air pulled from inside the cabin through a small intake, usually behind the rear seat. 15 years of dust, dog hair, and crumbs pack that intake solid. The fan can't move air, and the pack quietly cooks itself for years while everything looks fine from the driver's seat. Drop a comment below. How many miles are on the car sitting in your driveway right now, and has anybody at a dealership ever once mentioned the battery to you? When a module finally fails outright, the repair isn't a repair. A reconditioned hybrid pack installed runs somewhere between $2,200 and $3,800 depending on the model and the shop, and you're buying used cells with an unknown history to keep a car alive that's otherwise perfectly healthy. That's the mechanical damage. The financial damage is worse, and it's already happening to cars that haven't broken yet. Walk onto a used lot and find 2 cars from the same year, both sold new for around the same money, both with reasonable miles. A Camry hybrid on one row and an early electric hatchback on the other. The Camry hybrid appraises like a Camry. The market trusts it because everybody knows that car goes 300,000 miles and the pack is a known quantity with a known price when it goes. The electric hatchback from that same model year has fallen off a cliff. Buyers price in a pack replacement they can't finance and can't predict, so the gap between those 2 cars has widened by $9,000 to $15,000 over their lives. Not because one broke, but because the market decided one of them had an expiration date. That is the entire lesson, and it happened before solid state was anything but a rumor. Now Lexus has put a date on the next generation in public. Every buyer, every appraiser, and every dealer's used car manager just got told that the batteries in the current inventory are the ones getting replaced by something with twice the range and a 10-minute charge. Those people are not going to wait to reprice the risk. They already have. Quick reminder, if this is saving you money, hit that subscribe button. It helps us keep making videos like this. That's what the wrong move costs. Here's what the right one looks like, and the part that surprises people is how little it asks of you. The fix starts with the thing you don't do, and it costs you nothing but patience. If you were sitting on the fence about buying into any of this, a used electric, a certified pre-owned hybrid, anything where a battery pack carries the car, the announcement out of Lexus just made the case for waiting. The company that builds these things has publicly dated the current generation, and there is no reason for a man on a fixed income to be the one holding it when the market finishes repricing. If you buy anyway, and there are good reasons somebody might, do one thing before the money changes hands. Have the pack's health measured. Any independent shop with a decent scan tool can read the individual module voltages and the pack's remaining capacity in about 20 minutes, and most of them charge somewhere between $75 and $150 for it. That single reading tells you more than the whole test drive did. What you want to see is every module sitting within a few hundredths of a volt of its neighbors, with remaining capacity still up around 80% or better of what the pack left the factory with. A spread that's opened into tenths, or a capacity figure down in the low 70s, means you're buying a battery that's already on the clock no matter how clean the paint looks. A dealer who won't let you take the car for that reading has answered the question for you. Here's the part that applies to everybody watching, whether you'd ever consider an electric car or not, because most of you already own a hybrid, or you're going to inherit one from a family member eventually. Go find the battery cooling intake. On a Prius, a Camry hybrid, or a RAV4 hybrid, it's a small vent behind the rear seat, usually low on the passenger side, sometimes hidden under a plastic trim panel or behind the seat cushion. Pull the cover off and look at the filter screen. On a car that's never had this done, you'll find a gray mat of dust, carpet fibers, and pet hair thick enough to peel off in one piece. Vacuum it, wipe the screen, put it back. 15 minutes, no tools beyond a screwdriver, and it costs you nothing. That intake is the only thing keeping the pack cool, and a blocked one is the single most common reason a hybrid battery dies years before it should. The manufacturers put a maintenance-critical filter in a place most owners will never find and left it off the service schedule entirely, which tells you everything about who that schedule was written for. Do it once in the spring and once in the fall. While you're back there, keep the car out of direct sun in the summer where you can, because heat is what ages these packs whether the car moves or not. One more free habit, and it matters most to the people who drive the least. A hybrid that sits in a garage for 2 or 3 months at a stretch is aging its pack the entire time without ever cycling it. So if the car is a second vehicle, or it only comes out for church and groceries, get it out on the road for 20 or 30 minutes every week and let the battery actually work. Think about the last time anybody looked at that filter on the car in your driveway. If you can't remember, nobody has, and if a service advisor has been telling you your mileage drop is just the car getting old, he's describing a symptom he never bothered to diagnose. A retired school librarian in Spokane brought in a 2013 Camry hybrid with 190,000 miles on it. The dealer had told her the hybrid battery was failing, quoted her a number that made her stomach drop, and walked her over to the new car side to talk about a payment. The intake filter was packed solid. It had never been touched in 12 years. She spent under $200 that afternoon on the clean-out and a transaxle fluid service, and the car went back to the mileage she remembered from 3 years earlier. She drove it another 2 winters before anything else came up. The point isn't that the dealer was wrong about the pack being tired. It was tired, and it's a 12-year-old battery. The point is that she was 3 signatures away from a note she'd have been carrying into her 80s over a filter nobody told her existed. Here's what all of this is worth in real numbers, because this is where most people underestimate what they're protecting. The trade she was being steered toward would have put her into a payment, and a new car note today lands most buyers somewhere between $600 and $800 a month before insurance moves too. Stretch that across 5 or 6 years and you're talking about the price of a decent used car handed over in interest alone. Against that, keeping a paid-off Camry running well costs a few $100s a year in fluids and filters, plus one real repair every couple of years that stings for a weekend and then doesn't matter anymore. There is no month in that scenario where a finance company can take the car away from you. That is the whole equation, and every dealership in this country is counting on you never running it out loud. The Lexus announcement doesn't change your math, it confirms it. When a manufacturer stands up and says the good version of this technology arrives in 2 or 3 years for the most expensive cars in the lineup, the correct response for a man with a paid-off car in the driveway is to keep the paid-off car in the driveway. Let the early adopters pay to find out what breaks first. That has been the right answer for 40 years, and nothing announced last month changed it. Solid-state batteries may well be everything they're promising. When they finally show up in something a normal person can afford, they'll show up in a used one 3 or 4 years after that, with the bugs sorted out and the price on the floor, and you'll buy it right. Until then, the smartest car on the market is the one you already own. If you want to know which used cars actually cross 200,000 miles without a major repair, click the video on the left. I'll see you there.